another day of lockdown. It's a rainy day and it's a cold day. So the next job in the motorhome, USB ports. So much these days is charged via a USB port. As well as your phones, you've got your iPads, cameras, battery chargers. We've got one USB port in this motorhome, so I really think it's time we had some more. When we go away on a trip, even just two of us, it's like we're being rationed for power. It's a case of, okay, your phone's on 85% now, mine's on 22%, I get used to the charging cable. So let's put a stop to that. Put a few more USB sockets here and there. So the one USB socket that we have, as provided by Autotrail, is in here. Not the most convenient position inside that locker. The only other one in the van is the one provided on the dashboard, but that's only active when the engine's running. So there's two things to consider really when you're thinking of putting new plug sockets in. Firstly, where do you want the socket? And secondly, where you're going to get the feed from. So when I'm in this van on my own, I tend to use the overcab up there. When me and Lynn come together, well, she prefers the bigger bed in the lounge area. So here is where we tend to struggle for sockets. So I'm looking at putting some sockets here. All of the lights in this van are LEDs. So they're going to be low power, so I'm not really looking at tapping into those wires. I want a 12 volt one, and the obvious one is the TV, which drops down from here. Now behind this panel there is a mains plug and there's a 12 volt socket, so you can use the TV either on mains or when you're off grid. So I'm thinking of using that 12 volt socket behind there, tapping that wire and putting some USB sockets somewhere around here where they'll be of use, and we can charge our phones, put the phones on this table while we're in bed at night. Okay, here's my 12 volt outlet. I've drilled two holes, one here and one up there, and fed the wire in from inside the wardrobe. Goes behind here, goes behind here, and then using Scotch blocks I've attached the wires to the 12 volt feed. So that plug can now go back in. Which I can't do with one hand. So two screws back in and the cover plate back on. So TV slides up there. I'll put my wooden blanking back on and then move to the other end of the wire. Okay, my first thought was to put a USB outlet somewhere around here near the other socket and switches. That raised a problem really, because they would come out the other side in the wardrobe, and the existing plug and switches has got a blanking plate there, so it's quite neat, whereas mine wouldn't have, and it would stick out into the wardrobe area. And then of course you've got wires running as well. You could always cover them with trunking, but I wasn't happy with that idea. So where I'm going with this, I'll move these coat hangers out of the way. That's the hole I drilled to access the 12 volt socket above the TV. Here's my wire. I'm feeding it down following the vent for the gas fire. So that's gone down there and into this area here. That's behind the gas fire itself. Right, here's the location that I've decided on. I'm putting my sockets down here next to the fire. That way the whatever's being charged has got a convenient table to place it on. I did also consider putting it on this bulkhead here, but then I'll be running the wires through the drawers and cupboards, and again I didn't think that was the ideal solution. So using the front plate as a template, I've drilled my 3 holes, and that's where it's going to go. Okay, here's what I've got. It's modular, so you can move it around. It's got an on-off switch, which I thought was a really good idea, because the USB sockets has got a light in the middle which tells you what the voltage is, and you don't always want that lit up, apart from the fact that it's straining power. In the middle of the night, the smallest light inside a motorhome, well, it seems unusually bright. So the on-off switch is a good idea. So I'll put my USB sockets there. The other one is a 12-volt cigarette lighter type thing, which will be useful to me for charging my drone batteries and other such things. In case we get small visitors, I'm leaving the cover on that one. Don't want people sticking their little fingers in there and getting a shock. Now, the one thing I found already is that 2 of the modules go quite deep, and then a backing ring goes on the back of these to hold them in place. Now, that bulkhead where I've drilled the holes is quite thick, so those 2 are ideal. The switch is very much shorter and doesn't go through the wood, so all I've done is put a couple of blobs of super glue on the backing plate of the switch just to hold it in place, and that's fine. Link in the description below. It does come with wires attached. They're not very long wires, but it does have the wires attached, so my recommendation is make careful note of how the wires are attached so you can put them back together again in the right place. Right, let's fit this thing. Right, that's it in place. So the securing rings go on the back, and the faceplate is screwed to the bulkhead as well. So here's where it's attached at the back. It comes with an inline fuse, which is always a good idea, and then I've attached it to my extension wire there. And I'll get a few little cable clips just to tidy up these wires, make it all nice and neat in there. Okay, so moment of truth. We'll turn that on. Because it's wired through the TV link, this will only work when the power is applied to the van, so we'll turn that on now. Fantastic, that seems to work, and that's displaying 12.4, which is the amount of power that's in the battery. And if I switch the batteries over from leisure to vehicle, that will change very slightly, 12.4 to 12.5. Then of course there's the real test. Does it actually work? Does it charge your phone? So let's plug that in there. Dig out the phone. Great, that's that little job done. And of course, as mentioned, I don't need to keep this on all the time. I can turn it off.